Hello and welcome to my channel, and welcome to a Sunday morning meetup in which I discuss my TBR for April and some of my book projects. Also keep watching if you want to hear a section I have included at the end, especially for book lovers. For my Desert Island Books project in April, I will be reading Barchester Towers by Anthony Trollope. Barchester Towers is the second book in the Barchester series of 6 books, the first being The Warden, which introduces the character of Mr. Harding and Archdeacon Grantley. The Warden is the weakest of the 6 books in the series, and the series proper begins with Barchester Towers and is a much longer and grander book altogether, and my favourite of the series. Then, as part of my British Empire project, I will be reading The Day of the Scorpion by Paul Scott. This is the second book in the Raj Quartet, thus continuing my crawl of this mammoth. So TBC means to be continued, because I'd hoped to read The Day of the Scorpion in March, immediately after reading The Jewel in the Crown, but I'm now going to continue it into April. I'll give my final thoughts on The Jewel in the Crown in my forthcoming Wednesday interlude. I will be reading Tales of the Ring and Tales of the Camp by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle for my short story project. I plan to continue reading one short story every morning. Perhaps you're not aware that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was a prolific short story writer in other genres as well as in the detective series of Sherlock Holmes. My copy of his short stories is an omnibus volume of 6 collections of his short stories, in which Tales of the Ring and Tales of the Camp is the first one. The second collection is Tales of Pirates and Tales of Blue Water. The third collection is Tales of Terror and Tales of Mystery. The fourth collection is Tales of Twilight and the Unseen. The fifth collection is Tales of Adventure and Tales of Medical Life, and the sixth collection is Tales of Long Ago. Doyle, in his preface to this omnibus, wrote that if all my work were to be destroyed, save only one, that one single section which I might elect to preserve, my choice would certainly be those short historical pictures that come under the heading of Tales of Long Ago. Thus Doyle elevated his historical writings even above those of the Sherlock Holmes stories, but posterity has thought otherwise. The thing I love about Doyle's writing in general is that in a few vivid sentences he thrusts you immediately into the story by creating an arresting opening, so that you are completely involved in the concerns of his protagonist. As he continues with an entertaining middle section and then brings the story to a satisfying conclusion. The next book I plan to read in April is The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. As part of my classics project, I have a number of classics on my shelves that I've not yet read. After all, one cannot read everything in this short lifetime. W. Somerset Maugham, who for me is the last word on literature, said, when contemplating buying some more books, "I saw many books that I would like to read, if life were 1,000 years long." The Woman in White is the second book on my classics books project list. The first book I read for this project was The Three Musketeers by Alexander Dumas, which I read way back in August 2018 with Rincey of Rincey Reads. The next book I plan to read in April is Red Rose of Anjou by Jean Plaidy. As part of my Plantagenet series project. This is the 13th book in the Plantagenet series, which I began in January 2018. There are 14 books in the series altogether. but there are 3 previous books which I wish I had begun with, because they start with William the Conqueror, continue with his son, and then his grandson, which then leads into the line of the Plantagenets, which ruled England for 300 years and are the subject of Plaidy's 14-book series. The next book on my April TBR is The Black Moon by Winston Graham, which continues my Poldark saga project. Black Moon is the 5th novel in the Poldark saga of 12 books. I've read the first 4 so far: Poldark, Demelza, Jeremy Poldark and Warlegan, on which the popular BBC TV series was based. For those of you who don't know about Poldark, it is a sweeping saga set in Cornwall in the 18th century and follows the fortunes and misfortunes of several Cornish families through several generations. We will be reading, no, let me rephrase that, we will be reading Phineas Reader by Anthony Trollope for Steve's read-along project, as commanded by the master of booktube himself. Phineas Reader is the 4th book of the Palliser or political novels series. We read Can You Forgive Her?, Phineas Finn and the Eustace Diamonds in Steve's read-along project, and now we continue with Phineas Reader. Finally, Eastland by Ellen Wood. Or Mrs. Henry Wood, as she was famously known by. Eastland by Ellen Wood is the 4th book in my Classics Book to Film project. So far in my Classics Book to Film project, I've read and viewed Howard's End by E.M. Forster, King Solomon's Mines by H. Rider Haggard, and The Remorseful Day by Colin Dexter. I didn't like Howard's End, book or film. It had some interesting episodes, but overall I did not enjoy it. I was not impressed with the writing, the characters were dull, and the story was rather depressing. I didn't enjoy the preposterous King Solomon's Mines either, and couldn't bear to continue watching the film. But The Remorseful Day by Colin Dexter was a hit. I thoroughly enjoyed Dexter's writing. I planned to watch the film on YouTube, but it was taken down before I got a chance to watch it. Which doesn't really concern me, because I'm not really keen on the way John Thor as Morse speaks in the TV series. I much preferred his rough Cockney style in The Sweeney. For those of you who are not aware, Sweeney is Cockney rhyming slang and is short for Sweeney Todd, that is, the Flying Squad. The Flying Squad is also known as the Robbery Squad, the Specialist Crime Directorate 7 and SCD7, and nicknamed the Sweeney. And it is a branch of the Serious and Organised Crime Command within London's Metropolitan Police Service. The squad's purpose is to investigate commercial armed and unarmed robberies. I have had this old copy of Eastland by Mrs. Henry Wood on my shelves for years, so I scheduled it for an early read in my Classics Book to Film project. In my forthcoming Wednesday interlude video, I plan to start a new feature called Spotlight On. For this first episode, I plan to shine the spotlight on Eastland and Mrs. Henry Wood, so be sure to ring the notifications bell if you want to hear about Eastland and Mrs. Henry Wood. If you think that is a lot of projects, then let me say with Al Jolson, you ain't heard nothing yet. I have 45 book projects planned in all. And now, as I promised, I'm going to read Book Lover by Robert Service. I keep collecting books I know I'll never read. My wife and daughter tell me so, and yet I never heed. Please make me, says some wistful tome, a wee bit of yourself, and so I take my treasure home and tuck it on a shelf. And now my very shelves complain, they jam and overspill. They say, why don't you ease our strain? Some day, I say, I will. So book by book they plead and sigh. I pick and dip and scan, then put them back, distressed that I am such a busy man. Now there's my Boswell and my Sterne, my Gibbon and Defoe. To save a Swift I'll never learn, Montaigne I may not know. And Bacon I will never sup, for Shakespeare I've no time, because I'm busy making up these jingly bits of rhyme. Chekhov is caviar to me, while Stendhal makes me snore. Poor Proust is not my cup of tea, and Balzac is a bore. I have their books, I love their names, and yet, alas, they head, with Lawrence, Joyce and Henry James, my roster of unread. I think it would be very well if I commit a crime, and get put in a prison cell, and not allowed to rhyme. Yet given all these worthy books, according to my need, I now caress with loving looks, but never, never read. So that's all, folks, and remember to comment, subscribe, like and share, and I'll be back soon with another BookTube video.